So I recently just picked up the brand new Rode PodMic. Everyone on the internet kept telling me this is the best microphone you can get under $100 for streaming on Twitch. Before anyone complains about the clickbait title, just keep in mind, microphones are extremely subjective, so what sounds good with my voice may not sound good with your voice. So just take what I say with a grain of salt. Second, if you're not familiar with XLR microphones, you are gonna have to purchase additional hardware to make this microphone work. So if you're expecting an all-in-one package under $100, I will be going through a setup later on in the video, but just keep in mind, for this mic, you're gonna need to purchase extra stuff on top of that $100. So I've had this mic for a couple months now, and I've been testing it out on my Twitch stream, which you should totally check out, by the way. I thought about doing a review for this mic, and we're gonna do that, but I don't want to talk too much about how the mic sounds because I want to let you guys be the judge of that for yourself. If you want all the nerdy stats like the frequency response and the sensitivity, go watch the podcast video. Instead, I want to talk about what makes this mic in particular really good for streaming on Twitch and why you should be looking at mics like the PodMic instead of the standard USB mics like the Blue Yeti and Razer Siren that everyone seems to be using nowadays. I'll also be comparing the Rode PodMic to a mic I picked up for $30 and a mic that cost $400, the Shure SM7B, just so you guys can get an idea of the value you're getting with the Rode PodMic. Before we get started, if you're a new streamer and you're looking for ways to improve your stream, make sure to subscribe to this channel because we make videos all about how to improve the production of your stream, to choosing which gear to buy, and making your stream just stand out from everyone else on Twitch or Mixer. Some of you guys stream on Mixer, right? So I'm sure you're all waiting to hear what the PodMic sounds like, so let's swap out this mic with the PodMic. So you're listening to the PodMic, and I just gotta say, this thing is heavy. Like, if I compare it to the Shure SM7B, this thing might be heavier. This thing is rock solid, so build quality of the PodMic, 10 out of 10, easily. Also, side note, this is a beautiful looking microphone, which, by the way, is way more important than you might expect. So let's talk about the two things that make this mic really good for streaming. You might recall earlier that I referred to this microphone as an XLR microphone. And basically what that means for you is this does not plug directly into your computer. It is not an all-in-one package like a USB microphone. So any XLR mic is gonna require you to use one of these things. It's called an audio interface. And basically what an audio interface does is, well, it does two things. The first thing it does is it uses a preamp inside of the interface to boost the level of your signal so that it's loud enough for your audience to hear it. And then the second thing it does is it takes the analog signal coming from your mic and then turns it into a digital signal. The problem with using a USB microphone is both of these functions have to be built into the microphone. And that's fine if you just want something that's plug and play, but the thing is, manufacturers, in order to keep the cost of the USB microphone down, they usually cheap out on these components. And because it's an all-in-one package, you can't just upgrade these components later down the line. This is a really big reason why the PodMic stands out from USB microphones like the Blue Yeti, because you can buy a good audio interface that has really great preamps and a really good analog to digital converter. So not only are you going to get much cleaner audio, but you're also going to be able to upgrade individual components later down the line or add fun things like a voice changer like this one.
Godlike.
Wait, I think I did the wrong voice. It's supposed to be this one.
Godlike.
Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah. XLR microphones are just infinitely more flexible than USB microphones. Also, if you're on a limited budget and spending $100 on a microphone is just too much, you can buy XLR microphones from $10 to tens of thousands of dollars. There's literally hundreds, if not thousands, of different XLR microphones. USB microphones, on the other hand, there's maybe a couple dozen to choose from, and most of them sound okay, but not great. And like I said earlier, we're going to be checking out an example of one of these cheaper XLR microphones. The second thing that makes this mic really great for streaming is it is a dynamic microphone, which basically means it is much better at rejecting background noise compared to a condenser microphone. So there are two main categories for microphones. There's dynamic microphones and condenser microphones. There's also ribbon microphones, but we're not going to talk about that today. Almost all of the popular USB microphones are all condenser microphones. Now, condenser microphones are typically used in studio situations because they're really good at capturing detail and giving you a more natural tone. The problem is condenser microphones are really sensitive, which isn't a problem if you're in a studio that's acoustically treated, but in a streaming scenario, you're gonna have like your keyboard clicks, you're gonna have your mouse clicks, you're gonna have PC fans blaring, you're gonna have kids screaming at you in Fortnite. Boo, you suck. If you've ever used a Blue Yeti before, you know exactly what I mean. And the reason for this is because condenser microphones have a different capsule design, which they use what's called phantom power to actively listen for audio all the time. Dynamic mics are different because they're only activated from the sound pressure from your voice, so they're gonna do a really good job at rejecting background noise. For most people, this is exactly what you want for streaming. Whether or not you want to use a condenser microphone or a dynamic microphone comes down to whether you like the more detailed and natural tone of a condenser mic, or you like the background noise rejection of rejection of a dynamic mic, is what I meant to say. Most people are going to want the latter. What you might have heard with dynamic microphones, especially with the Shure SM7B, is that because they put out such a weak signal, you're going to need something like a cloud lifter or something like this. It's called a FET head. And essentially what it does is it boosts the signal of your microphone so that's louder, so that you don't have to rely on the preamps on your audio interface, which could introduce some hiss. So the question a lot of you might be asking is, do you need a cloud lifter or do you need a FET head to use with the PodMic? Well, we're gonna find out later because I'm gonna be testing a bunch of different microphones with a cheap entry-level audio interface, and we'll see how loud the signal is, and I'll let you know if you need one of these. So now that we've talked about XLR microphones generally, I want to talk about the PodMic specifically and some of the things I noticed when I listened back to it. So the first thing I did notice is the PodMic does lack quite a bit in the low end frequencies, at least compared to some of the other mics that I've tested, and you will see that later on. One of the first things you might have noticed when I switched to this mic from the first mic is there isn't as much bass in my voice, which makes my voice sound a lot thinner. So you will want to do some EQ to raise the low end frequencies, and I have a video on how to do that, so if you're interested, go click on the thing wherever it pops up. The other thing I noticed is there's a significant drop off in volume when I back away from the mic. So if I talk back here, you can notice the volume of my voice is a lot quieter. Part of that is because it's a dynamic mic, but even compared to my other dynamic mics, I did notice that the fall off was a lot more dramatic. That is one of the big benefits of using a mic like this. It just means that you have to make sure that you're always speaking really close to the mic, otherwise your viewers won't be able to hear you. But that does bring up another con that I did notice with this mic, and that is it's pretty sensitive to plosives. So if you say a lot of words with like P's and B's, it's really gonna pick up and distort the mic. Pop, 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 pop. So you're gonna want to use a pop filter with this if possible. But with all that being said, I don't want to talk too negatively about this mic because despite the lack of low end, I think this mic does sound really clear and detailed, and I think Rode has done a really good job for a mic that costs $100. So being a dynamic microphone, I guess we should test how well it does with background noise. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull up some white noise on my phone and play it full blast, and you'll be able to see how well it does at rejecting that noise. So here's the background noise. You can hear how loud it is. And then I'm just gonna pull it away. And you can still hear my voice. You should still be able to hear it because it's pretty loud. This is a pretty extreme example. And we'll just set it on the table. And hopefully this gives you an idea of how well it does at rejecting background noise. It is like 3 o'clock in the morning right now, and yeah, I think I just woke someone up with that. So that should give you an idea of how loud that was. It was really loud. Let's do another test. We're gonna pull out a mechanical keyboard, specifically one that has clicky switches, and we're gonna see how well that does when I tap on my keyboard. So I got my mouse and keyboard out, so I'm gonna start clicking on my mouse and tap some keys, and you're gonna hear some of the keys come through, but my voice should be clearly overpowering the sound of the keys. And just for comparison's sake, I've pulled out a condenser mic and I'm gonna do the same test, but you'll notice that the keys will be a lot louder because it's a condenser mic. So I'll just click on the mouse again and tap on some keys. And you should notice that the sound of the keys should be a lot louder than when I was using the dynamic mic. So we're gonna take a break from listening to the pod mic. We're gonna pull out the mic that I got for $30 and the $400 mic. But for this whole video, we've had the pod mic plugged into the Go XLR, which is a $400 mixer. So I feel like that's a little bit unfair. What we're gonna be doing is we're gonna pull out the $100 audio interface and test all these mics using this interface. Now this interface has 2 XLR ports in it. So if you don't need 2 XLR inputs, I'll leave a link in the description to an interface that will sound pretty much exactly the same as this, but only has 1 input and it'll cost $60. So right now I'm speaking into the microphone that I bought like 5 years ago. It was my first streaming microphone and I think I bought it for less than $30 on sale. This is the Samsung Q7 and it's going directly into the $100 audio interface with no FET no cloud lifter or anything like that. I actually went and checked how much this mic costs on Amazon and apparently it's listed for like $60. So I don't know what's up with that, but I can find this mic regularly on sale for like $30 here in Australia. If for some reason you can't find this mic for that price, I'll leave a link in the description for a mic that costs $19 and it pretty much sounds the same. Like the pod mic, this has a rock solid build quality because it's usually used as a stage mic, so it's designed to be like dropped and thrown around on stage. So this is a rugged mic. It's never gonna break on you. So if you want to get your first XLR microphone set up but you don't have a lot of money to spend, you can get a mic like this really cheap, pair it up with a $60 audio interface and get a really nice mic setup to start with for like $80 to $90. And then you'll still have plenty of money left over to buy like an XLR cable and a mic stand and fit comfortably underneath that $100 budget. All right, so right now we've gone on the complete opposite end of the spectrum and we're using the Shure SM7B, which is a $400 microphone, going straight into the $100 interface, and we're maxed out on the gain. Like my gain is literally at 100%. This is the microphone that is the end game microphone for a lot of full-time Twitch streamers. And I just wanted to throw this mic in there just so you can get an idea of, one, how different it sounds to the pod mic, and to my ears when I listen back, it's actually quite different. And two, I also wanted to demonstrate why people recommend things like a cloud lifter or a FET to pair with this microphone, because when I go quiet, you'll notice a little bit of hiss. You'll notice there'll be a little bit of hiss in the microphone. It is subtle, and I guarantee you on Twitch, no one's really going to complain about the hiss, but it is there. So the question is now, if I plug the pod mic into a $100 audio interface, how does it sound, and do I need a cloud lifter or a FET head? Well, we're going to find out. And now we're back to the pod mic, but it's going again straight into the $100 interface, and I've actually been able to turn down my gain a little bit, so it's not 100% max anymore. I'm actually running it at about 90%. I just listened back to my recording of the pod mic straight into this interface, and I was pleasantly surprised. I would say you don't need a cloud lifter or a FET head with the pod mic paired with this $100 interface. Like, I'm actually pretty shocked. Like, when I stop talking, like you can't hear anything. And keep in mind, this is not an ideal environment. I actually have like a fan going on in the background and you can't even hear it. You know, actually having listened to this microphone back, I think if you pair the $100 pod mic with a $60 UMC 22 HD, I think you have a really solid XLR setup. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the pod mic, plug it back into the Go XLR, because the Go XLR allows you to do EQ, noise gates, compression, all within the mixer itself. And we're going to see if we can improve the quality of this mic. Okay, so it's like actually one day later now, but with the power of editing, you will never know. So I added the normal processing chain through the Go XLR software that I normally do for my Twitch streams. So I added some EQ and just some compression to fill out some of that low end, because this pod mic lacks some of those low frequencies. But like I said earlier, you don't need a $400 mixer to do that. You can use some free VST plugins, and I've covered that in a video. So if you want to do some EQ to your microphone, watch that video. So those are my thoughts on the pod mic, guys. Let me know in the comments down below, what do you think of the pod mic, and which of those 3 microphones that I tested sounds best to you? And I hope you guys learned something. I know a lot of you guys who are first getting into streaming don't know a lot about microphones, so I tried to make this video as general as possible and not just focus on the PodMic. If you guys have any questions at all about microphones or just streaming in general, make sure to check out my Twitch stream. I stream 4 nights a week. We do a lot of just chatting where we just talk about streaming, so I'd love to see you guys there. Feel free to join the Discord as well if you want to talk about streaming or just talk to other people that stream too. That's gonna do it for today. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Are you serious? Are you guys still here?